This is how we do it.
This is how we do it.
Hi, I'm Mark from ClosetM, and today I'm going to demonstrate how I measure men's blazers and suit jackets. This video is just going to show how I do the jacket. If you're buying a suit and you want to see how the pants are measured, there's a link in this video to the video that shows how we do the pants. So let's get started. I always measure from this pole, and I always measure sitting down, so I just want you to see how it's actually done so you know how we get the measurement and you can do your best to compare to something that you own yourself. First thing I look for is the shoulders. We put shoulders at widest point. Now this measurement can vary based on how you're holding the shoulders. What I try to do is hold the shoulders in such a way that this is how I think it's going to lay on a man's back. So in this instance, I'm getting 19.5 inches. And it's basically from shoulder seam to shoulder seam. Some people call this measurement from point to point. But if I were to stretch this out, all right, I can stretch this out to 20.5 inches, but that's not how it's going to lay on you. So that's what I'm that's the measurement that I'm looking for here. So in this instance, 19.5 inches. Now the next measurement I'm going to take is the sleeve measurement. And depending on the width of the shoulders on the jacket, the sleeve is going to fall differently. You can have a sleeve measurement on a narrow shoulder of 26 and a sleeve measurement on a broad shoulder of 24.5, and they're both going to fit the same way. So you need to bear that in mind if you're comparing it to one of your own jackets. The sleeve measurement is not always indicative of exactly how it's going to fit. But I'm going to go right from the top of the shoulder where the three seams meet. There's two seams here where the fabric is sewn together, and then where the shoulder meets, the sleeve meets the shoulder up here. So I'm going to go straight down, and I'm going to go just basically, I'm not going to go to the very edge where the corner of the fabric is. I'm going to go in about an inch, 3/4 of an inch to an inch, and I'm not going to pull it down, stretch it. I'm just going to hold the fabric straight. Alright, I'm going to make sure I have it right. In this case, we have a measurement here of 25.5 inches. Okay, and I'm also going to give you the room to properly lengthen the sleeves. Now, it's not going to be the exact amount of fabric that's in here, because if you're going to properly lengthen the sleeves, you're still going to have some fabric folded inside. You can always lengthen the sleeves more than I say you can properly lengthen by adding some material, and sometimes they'll need to add some lining, but I just want you to know what would be appropriate. And in this situation, the fabric ends about here. There's 2 inches of extra fabric, and the lining, you can see it's easy to tell on this, the lining is folded in about 1.5 inches. So I think you can lengthen these sleeves 1.25 inches. It'll give you about 1/4 of an inch left over of the lining, so you won't need to add extra lining, and you'll still have 3/4 of an inch of fabric underneath here. So that's the maximum you can do it properly. Alright, now let's get on to the waist and the chest. I list the chest measurement above the waist measurement, but I always measure the waist before I measure the chest. And this is where we really get the size from. And we're going to talk about that when I'm done measuring. Well, actually, we need to do the length from bottom of collar. So let's get that on the jacket right after I get the shoulders. So we went over the shoulders, we went over the sleeves, the length from the bottom of the collar. So that's right where the felt behind the collar ends. I'm going to put my tape measure, and I'm going to go right along the center seam in the back. And again, I'm not going to pull the fabric to stretch it. I'm just going to hold it straight against the tape measure, and I'm getting 31.5 inches. Okay, now let's do the waist and the chest. I'm going to button the jacket. All right, at the end of my tape measure. Now I'm going to hold the jacket like this. I'm going to measure straight across. If it's a 2-button jacket, I'll go right across the top button. All right, I don't want to stretch it out too much. I just kind of want to hold it straight. In this situation, it's about it goes a little bit beyond 22 inches, but you know, I need to consider, you know, what's on, you know, that's some of the fabric there. So it's really, I'm just going to say 22 times 2. So the waist of the jacket is 44 in this case. Now the chest is generally, in a rule of thumb, the chest of the jacket is generally 4 inches above the stated size. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Chest of the jacket, this is, now a lot of people get different measurements here. I have a really hard time teaching my employees how to do this exactly the way that I do it. Because you can pull the fabric in all different directions and the lapel can open differently. What you need to do is you need to make sure you're holding the fabric evenly on each side. And you want to kind of go to where if it's hanging on the hanger, sorry, just see where it falls under the arms and just try to grab it in the same place on each side. And let the lapels kind of open up like they would be open on you. It's difficult to get this measurement. You know, if 3 people take this measurement, you might get it 3 different ways. But I take all the chest measurements on the men's jackets. So every one of my jackets is measured the same way. And here I'm getting 23 inches across, so that's a 46-inch chest. I've got a 44-inch waist. Now I know the brand, and just by measuring this, I'm sure that it's marked a size 42 regular. This is a perfect 42 regular for this brand. But I'm going to give you my theory on the sizes. Like I said before, the chest of the jacket is generally 4 inches above the stated size. So if you're a size 40, the chest of your jacket should be about a 44. And the waist of the jacket should be 1 to 2 inches above the stated size. Now, traditional sizing, like from Brooks Brothers, Hart, Schaffner, and Marks, like old school American designers, they were very consistent. It was always, the waist of the jackets were always 1 inch above the stated size. The chest of the jackets were always 4 inches above the stated size. It was very simple. But a lot of these jackets that are sold in department stores for a few $100, they seem to have a different opinion as to how the waist of the jacket should fit, as if all of their customers have a slightly larger belly than, you know, some traditional designers think their customers have, because the waists of the jackets are measuring 2 inches above the stated size instead of 1 inch above the stated size, and believe me that there's a big difference. So you need to pay attention to those measurements. Whether it says, because the standard today is 1 to 2 inches above the stated size on the waist, I'm going to say it's marked true to size either way. So you need to pay attention to that measurement because it's going to make a big difference in the way it fits. Now there's what we have, some designers have what they call a modern fit or a slim fit, and that's basically just, let's say a size 40 jacket actually has a 40-inch waist and it's going to have a 43-inch chest. So it's really going to measure a traditional size 39, but they're going to put a size 40 on it and call it a modern fit. So it's basically just a size smaller, but always review the measurements. Now when I'm measuring my jackets, I have someone with me and they're filling out one of these worksheets. And we're really careful when we measure the jackets because it's, you know, a man doesn't want to wear a jacket that doesn't fit exactly as it should. One thing that pretty much everyone agrees on is what a man's suit jacket should look like and how it should fit. So I made a worksheet that explains what the marked size is, what the size measures. So the marked size doesn't mean anything if it doesn't measure true to size. I've had jackets that are marked a size 42 long measure a size 39 regular. Sorry, I'm not going to... Hello again. Sorry I was interrupted with a phone call, but that won't happen again. I put my phone on silent. So I was just talking about marked sizes versus measured sizes, and the marked size doesn't mean anything if it doesn't measure true to size. So my worksheets have a place where we're going to put the marked size, we're going to put the measures and fit size, and we're also going to determine what size we're going to put it into eBay system as. Because if it's marked a 44 long and it measures a 42 regular, well, we're not going to put it into eBay system as a 44 long. That's just crazy. We're going to sell it as a 42 regular because that's what it measures. And we're also going to note whether the jacket was let out or not, or taken in, if that was altered. I mean, we're not going to tell you if most sleeves are altered. I mean, that's just, they're all made a little bit longer when they come from the factory, assuming that they're going to need to be shortened a little bit. But if the jacket was taken in or let out on the side seams or the center seam in the back, that's something we're going to let you know about. So whenever that happens, we'll put that in the listing. And if we think that the jacket's definitely going to require some alterations, we're going to let you know that too. Because if there was some kind of unusual sizing issue, if one sleeve is longer than the other, substantially longer than the other, if it's a 1/4 inch difference, we're not going to tell you that. But if there's an inch difference between the right sleeve and the left sleeve, we're certainly going to let you know that, and you'll know it's most likely going to need to be altered. So we try to be as thorough as possible when explaining these sizes. Now, I think I covered everything I needed to cover. Everything else in the listing, there's a lot of, we describe the weight of the fabric, and all these suits and blazers I do a video description on, and those videos are on the top. And you might want to take a look at those if you're looking at a specific suit or blazer, because I may say some things that you're not picking up from the listing. Please be sure, if you're buying a suit or you're buying some pants, please be sure to take a look at our pants video.